Hello and welcome back. Today we're covering Infocom's 1984 Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, written by none other than Douglas Adams and Steve Moretzky, the implementer who designed the earlier game Planetfall. The book began life as a six-part radio serial in 1978, released just after Star Wars saw its British release, and it hit hard enough to spawn multiple novels, another radio serial, double albums, a television serial, and a theatrical run, all while Douglas Adams was only 27 years old. By the early 80s, Adams had a fascination with Infocom's games, and his agent contacted the company on his behalf. With the company at the height of its success, many of the implementers were loath to take credit under a mere novelist, so it fell to Steve Moretzky, creator of the Adams-like Planetfall, to partner with the writer. As a side note here, Moretzky wasn't aware of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy while implementing Planetfall until one of the playtesters recommended the radio serial to him. He added Escape Pod 42 and the Don't Panic towel to the game as an homage, which has led people to intuit more of an inspiration than actually existed. For his part, Adams was enthusiastic for the project, with an initial plan for the pair to design the game together, Adams writing important text passages and Steve filling in the rest along with the Z-Machine implementation of the game's code. This was to be more than a game. It was to be Infocom's foray into bookware, with a planned 6-game schedule, each game covering one half of the series' 3 books. As there's only one game, it's no spoiler to tell you that didn't quite work out that way. The problem, as it is with many game designers, was that Adams' initial enthusiasm quickly turned into procrastination. He simply didn't do the work. In the end, Moretzky had to fly to London and essentially forced Douglas Adams to keep focused. What Douglas Adams did contribute was a fresh look and attitude towards the genre, with a number of puzzles and conventions that subverted experienced game expectations in an almost deconstructive manner. In the end, the game was the biggest hit Infocom had, selling almost 200,000 units in its first year, second in performance only to Zork. On to the game's packaging. I'll first draw your attention down here to where it claims to be of standard difficulty. This, my friends, is a lie. It introduced many new players to interactive fiction, fans of the author and his books who'd come to find themselves faced with one of the most difficult and oblique games Infocom had ever released, something that did not lead to many trying other games in the genre. It has a lot of unfair puzzles, and even the fair ones are difficult. It comes with a number of feelies, a copy of the destruction order for Arthur Dent's house, a Don't Panic button, an empty bag pretending to contain a microscopic space fleet, and peril-sensitive sunglasses made out of black construction paper. Unlike some earlier Infocom titles, this stuff doesn't really provide any clues or hints for the game. It was released for all of the microcomputers of the day, and the BBC even has a playable browser version. I'll put a link in the video notes, but I will be playing the MS-DOS release. As a reminder, when I do these interactive fiction playthroughs, note that my focus is on the narrative analysis, not the experience of playing in the game by going in blind. That could take weeks or months of mapping and exploration that just don't work for the video format, especially for a game like this one. As such, it can be difficult to convey the story of how a player might get to a solution through trial and error. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Infocom Interactive Fiction, a science fiction story. Copyright 1984 by Infocom, all rights reserved. You wake up. The room is spinning very gently around your head, or at least it would be if you could see it, which you can't. It is pitch black. Turn on light. Good start to the day. Pity it's going to be the worst one of your life. The light is now on. Bedroom in the bed. The bedroom is a mess. It is a small bedroom with a faded carpet and old wallpaper. There is a wash basin, a chair with a tatty dressing gown slung over it, and a window with the curtains drawn. Near the exit leading south is a phone. There's a flathead screwdriver here, and there is a toothbrush here. There's a lot to interact with and look at here, but again, we do have a bit of a timer at the very beginning of the game, so we're not going to be able to explore that as much as we might like. Very difficult, but you manage it. The room is still spinning. It dips and sways a little. Luckily, this is large enough for you to get hold of. You notice something in the pocket. Open pocket. It's hard to open or close the pocket unless you're wearing the gown. Okay, well, wear gown. You are now wearing your gown. Open pocket. Opening your gown reveals a thing your aunt gave you, which you don't know what it is, a buffered analgesic, and pocket fluff. All right, well, analgesic is basically an aspirin, so we'll eat tablet. You swallow the tablet. After a few seconds, the room begins to calm down and behave in an orderly manner. Your terrible headache goes. Get the screwdriver, get the toothbrush. As you pick up the toothbrush, a tree outside the window collapses. There is no casual relationship between these two events, and that's just a very Douglas Adams kind of thing to write. Look under bed. There's nothing there. Well, there are a few soiled handkerchiefs, a book you thought you'd lost, a couple of foreign coins, and something else which can't be fully described in a family game, but nothing you'd actually want. Oh, Arthur. Let's go south. You make your way down to the front porch. This is the enclosed front porch of your home. Your front garden lies to the south, and you can re-enter your home to the north. On the doormat is a pile of junk mail. Get junk mail. You gather up the pile of mail. South. You can enter your home to the north. A path leads around it to the northeast and northwest, and a country lane is visible to the south. All that lies between your home and the huge yellow bulldozer bearing down on it is a few yards of mud. Mr. Prosser, from a local council, is standing on the other side of the bulldozer. He seems to be wearing a digital watch. He looks startled to see you emerge and yells at you to get out of the way. The bulldozer rumbles slowly towards your home. Hit Prosser. He dodges, insisting that this is an incorrect procedure. The bulldozer rumbles slowly towards your home. You lie down in the path of the advancing bulldozer. Prosser yells at you to, for Christ's sake, move. Enjoy mud. It occurs to you that you've never deliberately lain in any mud before, and it's actually a pleasant sort of squishy sensation. You let the mud ooze between your toes. You may be here for some time, so you may as well make the most of it. The bulldozer thunders towards you. The ground is shaking beneath you as you lie in the mud. So far, we are following the progression of the book pretty well, and that's kind of key. We need to know, for example, to lie down in the mud to stop the bulldozer, so the game is presuming that we've read the book that it's based on. The noise of the giant bulldozer is now so violently loud that you can't even hear Prosser yelling to warn you that you'll be killed if you don't get the hell out of the way. You just see him gesticulating wildly. Ask Prosser for time. Prosser shakes the digital watch. Hasn't worked for months. I keep wearing it only because I think digital watches are neat. With a terrible grinding of gears, the bulldozer comes to an abrupt halt just in front of you. It shakes, shudders, and emits noxious substances all over your rosebed. Prosser is incoherent with rage. Moments later, your friend Ford Prefect arrives. He hardly seems to notice your predicament, but keeps glancing nervously at the sky. He says, "Hello, Arthur," takes a towel from his battered leather satchel and offers it to you. Now, this is a trap. If you have read the books or have interacted with the Douglas Adams fandom every way, you'll know that there is a certain sort of towel fetishism. Don't forget your towel, blah, 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 blah. However, if we take the towel, Ford will thank us for lending it to him and leave, keeping us progressing with the game and leading to a game over, basically. So we're just going to continue to wait. Ford glances uncomfortably at the sky. He offers you the towel again. Ford seems oblivious to your trouble, so you ask, "Ford, what about my home?" He looks startled, then guilty. He starts to say something and stops. He starts to say something else and stops. Suddenly, he seems to see the bulldozer for the first time, stops starting to say thing, and starts. He seems to come to a momentous decision, says he has something of earth-shattering importance to tell you, and stresses the importance of a quick drink at the Horse and Groom. I don't like that this was all told you were being told instead of actual dialogue, but it is what it is. Pointing towards Prosser, you exclaim, "But that man wants to knock my house down." Ford goes off for a quiet word with Prosser. From where you're lying, you cannot hear what's happening, although they seem deeply engrossed in conversation. Can we examine Ford? You see nothing special about Ford Prefect, so we'll just continue to lie here. Ford and Prosser stop talking and approach you. Ford says that Prosser has agreed to lie in your place so the two of you can go off to the pub. Reluctantly, Prosser steps forward and lies down in front of the bulldozer. You stand up. And there we go. Let's go to the pub. The pub is pleasant and cheerful and full of pleasant and cheerful people who don't know they've got about 12 minutes to live and are therefore having a spot of lunch. Some music is playing on the old jukebox. The exit is east. There's a barman serving at the bar. Behind the bar is a shelf. It is full of the sort of items you find on shelves behind bars in pubs. Examine shelf. On the shelf behind the bar is the usual array of bottles, glasses, and soggy beer mats, some packets of peanuts, and a plate of uninviting cheese sandwiches. Buy peanuts. However much you clear your throat, wave your forefinger, or wiggle your eyebrows, the barman pays you no attention, but carries on wiping another part of the bar. Ford buys lots of beer and offers half to you. Muscle relaxant, he says, impenetrably. Drink beer. It's a very good beer, brewed by a small local company. You particularly like its flavor, which is why you woke up feeling so wretched this morning. You were at somebody's birthday party here in the pub last night. You begin to relax and enjoy yourself, so when Ford mentions that he's from a small planet in the vicinity of Betelgeuse, not from Guildford as he usually claims, you take it in stride. You say, "Oh yes, which part?" Drink beer. It is really pleasant stuff, with a very good dry, nutty flavor, some light froth on the top, and a deep color. It is exactly at room temperature. You reflect that the world cannot be all bad when there are such pleasures in it. Ford mentions that the world is going to end in about 12 minutes. Drink beer. There is a distant crash, which Ford explains is nothing to worry about, probably just your house being knocked down. Buy cheese sandwich. The barman gives you a cheese sandwich. The bread is like the stuff that stereos come packed in. The cheese would be great for rubbing out spelling mistakes, and a margarine and pickle have performed an unedifying chemical reaction to produce something that shouldn't be, but is, turquoise. Since it is clearly unfit for human consumption, you are grateful to be charged only a pound for it. Let's go east. You see the large bulldozer heaving itself among the cloud of brick dust which is all that remains of your home. As you start up the lane, a small dog runs up to you yapping. Give sandwich to dog. The dog is deeply moved. With powerful sweeps of its tail, it indicates that it regards the cheese sandwich as one of the great cheese sandwiches. 9 out of 10 pet owners could happen by at this point expressing any preference they pleased, but this dog would spurn both them and all their tins. This is a dog which has met its main sandwich. It eats with a passion and ignores a passing microscopic space fleet. That is, of course, another puzzle and another reference to the game. Buying the cheese sandwich, giving it to the dog. It'll set something up much later in the game. And there's a lot of stuff like that, so we kind of have to, get to certain points in the game and we haven't done certain things. We're stuck and we're doomed, and that's why the game is so difficult. You reach the site of what was once your home. It is now a pile of rubble. Mr. Prosser looks sheepishly triumphant, a trick few people can do as it requires a lot of technically complex deltoid muscle work. Mr. Prosser from the local council is standing on the other side of the bulldozer. He seems to be wearing a digital watch. Ford hurries after you. Yell at Prosser. You begin to get a sore throat. Hit Prosser. You muck up all his fancy facial work. This is the last moment of satisfaction you will experience for some time. With a noise like a cross between Led Zeppelin's farewell concert and the eruption of Krakatoa, a huge fleet of Vogon constructor ships flies overhead and announces that the Earth will be demolished to make way for a new hyperspace bypass in 2 of your Earth minutes. In all the turmoil, you drop the thing your aunt gave you, which you don't know what it is, and it rolls away. This is the least of your worries. Anyway, you've been trying to get rid of it for years. Enjoy my house. A brave Zen-like effort. It fails. You can't enjoy a pile of rubble properly till it's at least 100 years old. Also, you're haunted by the tragic vision of your favorite teapot lying shattered among the dust. There's also the matter of all your clothes. The vast yellow ship thunder across the sky, spreading waves of terror and panic in their wake. The voice of the Vogon captain slams across the country, insisting that the planning charts and demolition orders have been available at the local planning office in Alpha Centauri for 50 years, and it's too late to start making a fuss about it now. Throughout the noise, Ford is shouting at you. He removes a small black device from his satchel, but accidentally drops it at your feet. Get device. Fierce gales whoop across the land, and thunder bangs continuously through the air in the wake of the giant ships. Ford fights to reach you, but the wind is too fierce. Further announcements from the Vogon captain make it clear that demolition will begin in just a few seconds. Through the blinding rain, you can see lights flickering on the small device. Examine it. The electronic sub-ether signaling device is shaped like a small fist with an extended thumb. Various lights along its knuckles are currently blinking wildly, indicating a spaceship in the vicinity. It has two small buttons, a red one labeled Call Engineer and a green one labeled Hitchhike. It bears a small label which reads, "Another fine product of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation." Affixed to the thumb is a lifetime guarantee. Alright, well let's go ahead and press the green button. Lights swirl sickeningly around your head, and the ground arches away beneath your feet, and every atom of your being is scrambled, an experience you're probably going to have to get used to. You're in dark. We do indeed need to get used to this, because it is going to happen a lot. There's nothing you can taste, nothing you can see, nothing you can hear, nothing you can feel, nothing you can smell, and you do not know who you are. You can't hear anything, see anything, smell anything, feel anything, or taste anything. You do not even know who you are, where you are, or who you are, or how you got there. You can see nothing, feel nothing, hear nothing, taste nothing, smell nothing, and not entirely certain who you are. So none of our senses are working right now. So we can't actually do much of anything. You can't hear anything, see anything, feel anything, or taste anything, and do not even know where you are, who you are, how you got there. However, it doesn't say we can't smell anything, and we have to notice that as a difference. Through text, we might just be, quickly ignoring and skimming as we try different attempts to do something in the darkness. So let's go ahead and smell. Darkness. After 4 turns, we can smell. It does smell a bit. There's something pungent being waved under your nose. Your head begins to clear. You can make out a shadow moving in the dark. Examine shadow. The shadow is vaguely Ford prefix shaped. Vogon hold. This is a squalid room filled with grubby mattresses, unwashed cups, and unidentifiable bits of smelly alien underwear. A door lies to the port, and an airlock lies to the starboard. Along one wall is a tall dispensing machine. In the corner is a glass case with a switch and a keyboard. It looks like the glass case contains an atomic vector plotter. Ford removes the bottle of Santragianian mineral water which he's been waving under your nose. He tells you that you are aboard a Vogon spaceship and gives you some peanuts. Well, let's eat the peanuts. You feel stronger as the peanuts replace some of the protein you lost in the matter transference beam. What follows here is one of the game's most infamous puzzles, but it is at least a fair one. We want to get the babelfish out of the machine here, but each time we try, something happens to the fish before we can grab it, and we're limited by both a turn limit before something else happens, and a limited supply of 5 fish, so that's 5 attempts we can make. The dispenser is tall and has a button around eye level and says Babelfish in large letters. Anything dispensed would probably come out of a slot at about knee level. It bears a small label which reads, "Another fine product of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation." So if we just press the button, a single Babelfish shoots out of the slot. It sails across the room and through a small hole in the wall just under a metal hook. Alright, well, we didn't get it that way. So we're going to remove our gown. Hang gown on a hook. The gown is now hanging from the hook, covering the tiny hole. Ford yawns. Matter transference always tires me out. I'm going to take a nap. He places something on top of the satchel. If you have any questions, here's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Footnote 14. Ford lowers his voice to a whisper. I'm not supposed to tell you this, but you'll never be able to finish the game without consulting the guide about lots of stuff. As he curls up in the corner and begins snoring, you pick up the Hitchhiker's Guide. So where it says footnote 14, that's a neat little addition to the game that's very much in line with the way Douglas Adams writes his book, is that we can type footnote 14 and it'll give us the footnote. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is also the name of a terrific work of interactive fiction by Douglas Adams and S. Eric Moretsky, but then again, you must already know that since you bought one. All right, so let's go ahead and consult the guide about Vogons. The guide checks through its sub-Ethernet database and eventually comes up with the following entry. Vogons, whose specialties are bureaucracy and planet smashing, are the most unpleasant race in the galaxy. They wouldn't think twice about throwing someone into space, wouldn't lift a finger to save their own grandmother from the ravenous bug bladder beast of Troll. Also see the entries on Vogon poetry and ravenous bug bladder beast of Troll. So we can consult it about all kinds of things in the game. I'm not going to do so at the moment because we have this puzzle to worry about and we have a limited amount of time to get there. So let's continue to focus on this babblefish. A single babblefish shoots out of the slot. It sails across the room and hits your dressing gown. The fish slides down the sleeve of the gown and falls to the floor, vanishing through the grating of a hitherto unnoticed drain. Okay, so now we have to block the drain somehow. Let's get Ford's stuff while he's sleeping. Put the towel in the grate. A single babelfish shoots out of the slot. It sails across the room and hits your dressing gown. The fish slides down the sleeve of the gown and falls to the floor, landing on the towel. A split second later, a tiny cleaning robot whizzes across the floor, grabs the fish, and continues its breakneck pace towards a tiny robot panel at the base of the wall. The robot zips through the panel and is gone. Didn't work. All right. Put satchel in front of panel. Press dispenser button. A single babblefish shoots out of the slot, blah, blah, blah. The robot plows into the satchel, sending the babblefish flying through the air in a graceful arc. A small upper half of the room cleaning robot flies into the room, catches the bablefish, which is all the flying chunk it can find, and exits. So as you can see, there are very specific things you need to do, and they don't work. You have to kind of finish this Rube Goldberg-style process to keep your fish. So we are going to put our junk mail on the satchel, and then press dispenser button. And I believe this is the 5th fish, so we have to do this exactly without, messing up. All right, The robot plows into the satchel, sending the babblefish flying through the air in a graceful arc, surrounded by a cloud of junk mail. Another robot flies in and begins madly collecting the cluttered pile of mail. The babblefish continues its flight, landing with a loud squish in your ear. So there we go. We have our fish in our ear, as per our plan all along. All right, let's take a look at this glass case in here with us. It's closed. Attached to it are a keyboard and a switch. Flip switch. Recording plays. To open the case, type in the first word from the second verse of the captain's current favorite poem. Warning, an incorrect input will cause the case to explode. And this is different every game, so we need to mark this down. First word of the second verse. We have some time to kill, so let's try a few other things. Let's brush our teeth. Congratulations on your fine dental hygiene. An announcement is coming over the ship's intercom. This is the captain. My instruments show that we've picked up a couple of hitchhikers. I hate freeloaders, and when my guards find you, I'll have you thrown into space. On second thought, I'll read you some of my poetry first. Repeating. Oh, that doesn't sound good. So let's consult guide about Vogon poetry. The guide checks its database and eventually comes up with the entry. Vogon poetry is so awful that even the Sarcopsy of Burfon 12, whose religion strictly forbids the taking of one's life, considers suicide a preferable alternative to a Vogon poetry reading. The same announcement plays again. That's a panic. Oops. Panic. Not surprised. An announcement is coming over the ship's intercom. This is the captain. My instruments show we picked up hitchhikers. Da-da-da. Well, let's say don't panic. Why not? Your position appears quite hopeless. Guards burst in and grab you and Ford, who comes slowly awake. They drag you down the corridor to a large cabin where they strap you into a large menacing chairs. Captain's quarters, in the poetry appreciation chair. This is the cabin of the Vogon captain. You and Ford are strapped into poetry appreciation chairs. That captain is indescribably hideous, indescribably blubbery, and indescribably mid to dark green. He is holding samples of his favorite poetry. If he's going to read us his poetry, mutters Ford, sweating profusely, just pray he softens us up with some cudgels first. Hello, hitchhikers, begins the Vogon captain. I've decided to read you a verse of my poetry. O Fredly Gruntbugly, thy nocturations are to me. Let's enjoy the poetry. You realize that, although the Vogon poetry is indeed astoundingly bad, worse things happen at sea, and in fact at school. With an effort for which Hercules himself would have patted you on the back, you grit your teeth and enjoy the stuff. As plurtal gaboblochitis on a lurgid bee. Group, I implore thee, my funting turlingdromes, and hoopitously drangle me with crinkly bundle wordles, or I'll rend thee in the gobberworts with my blurgle crunchin', see if I don't. You look like you enjoyed my poem. I think I'll read the next verse also. Bleem miserable venchit, bleem forever mestixiling asunder frapped. Okay, so bleem is the word that we need for the case. So let's make a note of that. Bleem. Fripping licious wingbutts, a whilst mungrovenly cormzibs. Cashy morphosite, thou expungiest coupisk. Gerond without attitude from form into formless bloat. Why not then? Moose. Since you have somehow managed to survive 2 verses of my poetry, I have no choice but to space you. Guards! A guard grabs you and Ford and drags you towards the hold. Ford whispers, Don't worry, I'll think of something. We're brought back to the hold, which I've already read and I'm not going to describe again. The guard releases you and Ford and begins cycling the air in the airlock. Hey guard, shouts Ford, do you really enjoy this sort of thing? Shouting, stomping around, shooting people. Is it really a fulfilling career? Again, a scene straight from the book. But let's go ahead and type Bleem. The glass case opens. Let's get the plotter. Taken. Ford continues to trying to talk the guard into a sudden career change. And now we can just kind of wait. The guard says, well, all things considered, I guess I like being a guard, especially the shouting. Resistance is useless. He throws you and Ford into the airlock and closes the door. Airlock. The door has massive doors to port and starboard. Ford points towards the outer door. In about 2 minutes, it'll open and will be ejected into the vacuum of space. But don't panic, I'll think of something. Well, you don't need to, because I can examine the thumb. There's a spaceship in the vicinity, and it's not referring to us this time. So let's press the green button. Every molecule in your body gets pulled from every other molecule. Then suddenly they snap back together again like elastic, and you find with a dizzy head and very sore molecules that you are in dark. So this is another puzzle where we need to find the missing sense, or the non-missing sense, I suppose. Hear, smell, taste, see, feel. Smell, taste, see, feel. Okay, so here You hear a deep and distant hum of a star drive coming from above. There's an exit to port. Let's go port. Can't go that way. You can't go that way. We were lying about the exit to port. There's an exit aft. So yes, the parser will lie to us in this game. This is an interactive fiction game with an unreliable narrator. Entry bay number 2. This is the entry bay for the Heart of Gold. A corridor lies aft of here. There's a sales brochure here. This looks like the incredibly new infinite improbability drive spaceship, the Heart of Gold, says Ford with growing excitement and exposition. Announcement. This is Eddie, the shipboard computer. We have just picked up 2 hitchhikers at an improbability factor of 2 to the 2,914th power to 1 against. Examine brochure. There's nothing special about it. Come on, let's look for the bridge. You follow Ford and eventually come to the bridge. This is the bridge of the Heart of Gold. A gangway leads down and steam comes from an entrance to port. Next to the console is Eddie, the shipboard computer. At the consoles, apparently expecting you and Ford, are a man with more than the usual number of heads. The name Zaphod is stitched on his shirt, and a dark-haired woman holding a handbag. Both seem somehow familiar. There is a molecular hyperwave pincer here. Examine woman. You see nothing special about Trillium. Hey, Zaphod, how you doing, says Ford. He's cool. Not bad, Ford. Great to see you, replies Zaphod. He's cooler. You suddenly realize that the woman is Tricia McMillan, call me Trillian, whom you were trying to pick up at a party in Islington just a few weeks ago, and that Zaphod is the guy she eventually left the party with. Odd. Like my spaceship, Ford? Zaphod asks. Your spaceship, says Ford, losing it. Like my spaceship, Ford? Zaphod asks. Your spaceship, says Ford, losing his cool for a second. Yeah, I stole it, Zaphod admits. I'm going to use it to find the legendary lost planet of Magrathea. Let's go sit in the sauna while I explain. Zaphod, Ford, Trillian all head off to port. Conveniently, all the NPCs leave, so we don't need to worry about complex character interactions that haven't really been implemented. We can't talk to them or really even examine them for any reason. But let's take a look at our inventory. We have no tea, an atomic vector platter, the babblefish in your ear, the Hitchhiker's Guide, the thing your aunt gave you which you don't know what it is. We did indeed lose this when the Vogon arrives, but it'll always come back. It's also a storage container with infinite capacity, making it useful for, storing things. And that's good, because this is a game in which you need almost everything. Note that there's nothing in the game's text to imply it's a container, though. Examine thing. Apart from the label on the bottom that says Made in Ibiza, it furnishes you with no clue as to its purpose, if indeed it has one. You were surprised to see it because you thought you'd thrown it away. Like most gifts from your aunt, you've been trying to get rid of it for years. So let's go ahead and put all in thing. The plotter, the babblefish, you'll have to remove it first, so don't worry about it, and everything else that we're currently carrying. Let's get the pincer taken. You feel a wave of depression sweep over you, and you turn to see that Marvin the robot has stalked miserably into the room. He has no real function or purpose, so we're just going to ignore him. Well, I mean, yet. He eventually will. Don't want to depress him more than he already is. Put pincer in thing. There we go. So we have the things we couldn't put in the thing are no tea, the babelfish, and the thing itself. Everything else is now in there. And this is a game in which we need to hoard a lot of things because we'll need most of them at some point. So at certain points it'll tell us that something's too heavy and we can't pick it up, but the thing will always return to our inventory. It's a way to get around that that limitation, which is, again, like I said, very deconstructionist. We'll go down to corridor 4 end. This is one of a end of a short corridor that continues aft along the main deck of the Heart of Gold. Doorways lead to 4 and port. In addition, a gangway leads upward. Go port. You are in the galley area of the ship, containing a machine which is a state-of-the-art in nutritional technology, a Sirius Cybernetics Corporation Nutrimat. There is an exit to the starboard. A carton labeled Nutrimat Computer Interface is sitting here. The Nutrimet has a touch-sensitive pad, a dispensing slot, and a service panel which is closed. It bears a small label which reads, "Another fine product of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation." With depression, Marvin walks in. Consult guide about Nutrimat. A typically unreliable Sirius Cybernetics Corporation product, the Nutrimat analyzes the user's neural paths to provide the supposedly ideal offering. Its computing power is frankly abysmal, so the optimal computer interface is a good thing to go for. Marvin wanders off. Touch pad. The Nutrimat makes an instant but highly detailed examination of your taste buds, a spectroscopic analysis of your metabolism, and sends tiny experimental signals down your neural pathways to see what you like. A cup of advanced tea substitute appears in the dispensing slot. Get ATS. Examine ATS. About the only characteristic it shares with tea is that of Brownian motion. Consult guide about Brownian motion. The guide checks through its net database and eventually comes up with the following entry. The best randomness generator is simple Brownian motion. Any hot gas or liquid is a good source. So for our herd of gold, which operates on random chance and unlikely coincidence, this is probably a good way to do so. Starboard aft. This is one end of a short corridor that continues 4 along the main deck of the Heart of Gold. Doors leads aft and port. In addition, a gangway leads downward. All right, let's go down. There's nothing much there. That entrance leads to the infinite improbability drive chamber. It's supposed to be a terribly dangerous area of the ship. Are you sure you want to go in there? Yes. Absolutely sure. Yes. I can tell you don't want to really. You stride away with a spring in your step, wisely leaving the drive chamber safely behind you. Telegrams arrive from well-wishers in all corners of the galaxy congratulating you on your prudence and wisdom, cheering you up immensely. No, we really do want to go. What? You're joking, of course. Can I ask you to reconsider? No. Engine room. You're in the infinite improbability drive chamber. Nothing happens. There is nothing to see. I don't believe you. Look, I mean it. There's nothing to see here. Okay. There are a few things to see here. This is the room that houses the powerful infinite improbability generator that drives the Heart of Gold. Exit lies forward of here. Sitting in the corner is a spare portable improbability generator. There's an ionic diffusion rasp here. There's a pair of hypersonic pliers here. So again, we have this unreliable narrator. The game outright lies to us. Footnote 10. I guess it isn't that dangerous a place after all. Get rasp and pliers. Taken. Marvin, put rasp and pliers in thing. Get drive. Your load is too heavy. Are we going to drop the thing? Because again, it will teleport back to our inventory eventually. And get the drive. Examine. The spare improbability drive has a switch, a long cord ending with a large plug, a short cord ending with a small plug. It bears a small label which reads another fine product of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation. Consult guide about improbability drives. Scientists have long known how to produce finite amounts of improbability using a finite improbability generator, an atomic vector plotter, and a good source of Brownian motion. Recently, however, they have learned to generate infinite amounts thanks to the invention of the infinite improbability generator. It is rumored that an infinite improbability drive based on this new generator is under development. Also see the entries on atomic vector plotter and Brownian motion. Consult guide about plotter. The guide checks through its database and eventually comes up with the following entry. The atomic vector plotter is one of the primary application devices of improbability physics. Helpful. Let's go back up to the bridge. I'll drop the drive. Drop the ATS, the T simulator. Drop the plotter. Can't see that here. All right, we got to wait for the thing to reappear in our inventory. Okay, there we go. The thing is here now. Who knows why it appeared here, but it did. Get plotter, drop plotter, get thing. All right, so we're going to take the drive's small plug and plug it into the plotter. We're going to take the thing's bit and cup. And we're going to turn on the drive. A mist spins around your head. You fall into what seems like a bottomless pit. Suddenly you hit the bottom so hard you wished it had been bottomless. So we've entered an interesting part of the game where we can interact with various vignettes to gather the tools we need for the end game, which is basically everything in the game. What vignette the improbability drive senses to is random, but we can track it based on what sense is missing in the darkness. So first of all, I am going to save. And we're going to wait. Okay, we can see nothing, feel nothing, hear nothing, taste nothing, smell nothing. Nothing, taste, see, hear, feel, smell. Okay, so now we can smell nothing. So let's go ahead and smell the darkness. It does smell a bit. There's something pungent waving under your nose. Your head begins to clear. You can make out a shadow moving in the dark. Michael here. A bit of a mess up on my part. I actually forgot to grab the towel back when I was in the Vogon hold. And as a result, I could not complete the game. I had to... You can never go back. You do need the towel to finish. It doesn't warn you about this or anyway. It's just one of the many little ways you can forget something minor at one point, and then much later you'll discover that it messes you up. So I did go ahead and restart the game and repeat pretty much everything I've done, with the exception of actually remembering the towel this time. So let's continue from here as if nothing had gone wrong. The missing sense, or the sense that is not missing, is feel. So let's feel. It's cold and wet and squishy. There seems to be some liquid at your fingertips. So let us drink the liquid. It tastes like wine. In fact, you realize with growing embarrassment that your hand is sitting in a glass of wine. You're at a party given by a distant and incredibly boring acquaintance. Among the people you've been introduced to are a shy, mousy fellow from the West Country named Arthur and a flamboyant guy named Phil. You've had too many drinks already, and the room is beginning to buzz. We are, in this scene, Trillian at a party where we briefly met Arthur a few weeks ago. You are in a large living room. There is a party going on. Other rooms lie to the west and southwest, and the apartment's front door is south of here. Phil is here. Arthur Dent is here. You notice the host is approaching, but using several mingling couples as cover, you maneuver away. Examine Arthur. Arthur seems nice and well-meaning, but also terribly shy. He has tried to start a conversation with you several times, but still hasn't gotten past hello. He has an enormous, unsightly ball of fluff on his jacket. Arthur walks up and says hello again. He looks shy, embarrassed, and stuck for anything else to say, and quickly walks to the other end of the room. Drop our wine. We get the fluff off of Arthur's jacket. You remove the jacket fluff, improving Arthur's appearance greatly. He is clearly touched and begins happily to chat away with you. You discover that he is only slightly more interesting to talk to than the averagely interesting wall. Open bag. Opening the handbag reveals a pair of tweezers. The hostess, who you've been avoiding all evening, scurries up to you with a glass of white wine. Oh, hello, Tricia. How lovely to see you. I think you dropped this, dear. Arthur tries, unsuccessfully, to interest you by talking about the deteriorating condition of the motorways. Put fluff in bag. Tricia, dear, says the hostess insistently, don't you want your glass of white wine? Arthur tries, unsuccessfully, to interest you by talking about computers. Get wine. Taken. Arthur tries, unsuccessfully, to interest you by talking about newts he has known. Arthur tries, unsuccessfully, to interest you by talking about computers. Phil comes up and grips your shoulder. Hey, babe, this guy boring you? Why not come with me instead? I'm from a different planet. He takes you to the parking lot where his flashy interorbital ion scooter is parked between two Volkswagens. After mounting it, the scooter accelerates at such a great speed that you black out almost immediately. Everything becomes dark. What we can do here is listen. You hear the deep and distant hum of a star drive coming from far above. There is an exit to port. You can't go that way. You can't go that way. We're relying about the exit to port. There's an exit aft. So we're back in the Heart of Gold. And we're in sail bay number 2. But this time we have an interface for the Nutrimat. So we are back on the Heart of Gold. And we can see when we get to the bridge, Trillion's handbag is there. We can open it. Get the tweezers. Get the fluff. Consult guide about fluff. Fluff is interesting stuff. A deadly poison on Bodega Minor, the diet staple of Frazalon 5, the unit of currency on the moons of the Bluford system, and the major crop of the laundry supplies planet Blastus 3. One legend claims that the 4 pieces of fluff lie scattered about the galaxy, each forming 1/4 of the seedling of a tree with amazing properties, the sole survivor of the tropical planet Fuzzball, footnote 8. The ultimate sort of fluff is still a mystery, with the scientific community torn between the big lint bang theory and the white lint hole theory. So, footnote 8. It's not a very good legend, is it? No, but it's integral to the game. We now have found 2 pieces of fluff, one in Arthur's pocket and one in the handbag. And if you're guessing that we're going to have to gather all 4, you are correct. Put fluff and tweezers and fen. Turn on drive again to enter the next vignette. We can taste, see, hear, feel what we cannot smell. So let's go ahead and smell. Examine shadow. There's something pungent waving under your nose. Your head begins to clear. You can make out a shadow moving in the dark. This is the lair of the ravenous bug bladder beast of Troll. There are exits east and southwest. The ravenous bug bladder beast of Troll is here, looking particularly nasty and hungry. The beast whips its evil-smelling tail away from your nose and bellows a brain-shattering roar. By suddenly popping out of nowhere, you have disturbed its train of thought. However, since its train of thought was the usual one, and in fact the only one it knows, which goes like hungry, 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 bad-tempered hungry, it soon starts to chug along again. You notice the beast's zero-zap eyes, its swivel-sheer teeth, its several dozen tungsten carbide vast-pane claws, forged in the sun furnaces of Zangrajad. It has skin like a motorway and breath like a 747. It advances on you and roars out a demand that you say your name. I am Arthur. Pleased to meet you. I am your computer. All right, well, say my name. The beast roars your name with relish and explains that once it has eaten you, your name will be added to its list of remembrance. We'll go east. This is a large walled courtyard. Strewn about are a profusion of gnawed bones bleaching in the sun. In case the significance of these fails to strike you, there is also a sandstone memorial in the midst of the courtyard on which the beast has roughly carved the names of all of its victims. Some sharp stones lie near the exit to the west. There are countless names carved into the sandstone. Gleb Snardfitz, Bibbs Trench, Zeke Fitzberry, Elmo Smith, Brian Spike Berkowitz, and Clybert Quackentotter. With a head-splitting roar, the ravenous bug-bladder beast of Troll charges towards you. Get sharp stone. Taken. The beast is nearly upon you. Put towel on head. Put towel on head. The ravenous bug-bladder beast of Troll is completely bewildered. It is so dim that it thinks that if you can't see it, it can't see you. You have a few seconds before it realizes its mistake. Carve beast's name on towel. On memorial. Just as the beast is trying to work out where you've disappeared to, it suddenly sees its own name freshly carved on the memorial. This disconcerts it, as it has no recollection of eating itself. Slowly it dawns on the creature that someone is trying to make a fool of it. It starts to look for you again. Carve my name on memorial. You chip away with a stone. It's not your best writing, what with your mounting sense of panic and a towel wrapped around your head. However, it suffices. Just as the beast is trying to work out where you've disappeared to, it suddenly sees your name freshly carved on its memorial of remembrance. Mystery solved. It realizes it must have already eaten you in a fit of absent-mindedness. Its mind is very, very small and quite frequently absent. It decides to give up on the rest of its afternoon to the twin arts of digestion and contemplation. It settles down for a snooze. It is, of course, well known that careless talk costs lives, but the full scale of the problem is not always appreciated. For instance, at the exact moment you said, put towel on head, that was my earlier typo, a freak wormhole opened in the fabric of the space-time continuum and carried your words far, far back in time across almost infinite reaches of space to a distant galaxy where strange and warlike beings were poised on the brink of frightful interstellar battle. The two opposing leaders were meeting for the last time. A dreadful silence fell across the conference table as the commander of the Verhogs, resplendent in his black jeweled battle shorts, gazed levelly at the Gagvunt leader squatting opposite him in a cloud of green, sweet-smelling steam. As a million sleek and horribly beweaponed star cruisers poised to unleash electric death, at his single word of command, the Verhog challenged his vile enemy to take back what it had said about his mother. The creature stirred in its sickly, broiling vapor, and at the very moment the words, put towel on head, drifted across the conference table. Unfortunately, in the Verhal tongue this was the most dreadful insult imaginable, and there was nothing for it but to wage terrible war for centuries. Eventually the error was detected, but over 250,000 worlds, their peoples and cultures perished in the Holocaust. You have destroyed most of a small galaxy. Please pick your words with greater care. And that's a little bit that can happen randomly at any point in the game, based on a typo you've made at some point. But to bring us back to where we are, we've just defeated the beast by tricking it into thinking that it had already eaten us. You unwrap the towel from your head. The beast is in the corner, sleeping peacefully. Footnote 5. Peacefully for a ravenous bug-bladder beast of Troll, that is. Now and then it shifts or rolls over, and the walls shake a bit. Drop stone. Read memorial. Yep, there's our name there. Although it didn't add the bug-bladder's name. The beast's name itself. Back to the lair. And we're going to go southwest. This is the heart of the beast's lair. The only exit lies northeast. The skeleton of a dead beast hunter lies nearby, clutching something labeled Nutrimat Computer Interface. Get interface. Taken. Suddenly a team of Frondnerbian beast hunters charges in, intent on catching the beast for their zoo. Mistaking you for the beast, they fire stun guns at you, wrap you in nets, and install you in a lovely little lair in the Frond Nerby National Zoo. 3 months later, this error is discovered, but while your damaged suit is pending in the Fernnubian courts, the planet is invaded by the bureaucratic pirates from Paldeon 4. Impressed into bondage for a 16-year filing and sorting mission on the so-called basement world of Sporla in the Lesser Magellanic Cloud, you escape with the help of a tribe of nomadic asteroid painters. You develop a unique talent for asteroid painting, gaining considerable fame throughout the cloud. A nickel ore deluxe is commissioned by His Royal Gorpness Orbchfelk, the ruler of the 900 worlds of Gorp, but while working on this new masterpiece, your asteroid slips into a passing black hole. Everything becomes dark. And here we are, back on the Heart of Gold. But this time, we have an interface for the Nutrimat, with which we can use to get some real tea, which is much better than the substitute stuff. So let's go ahead, actually, go down. Down to the port, down to the galley, welcome panel, get board, put interface in Nutrimat, close panel, touchpad. The Nutrimat is puzzled that you want something made by pouring boiled water on dead leaves and squirting stuff from a cow in it, and says that it will need some help from Eddie, the shipboard computer. The Nutrimat begins to whir. Corridor from the fore end. Put large plug in large receptacle. Way to turn. Announcement. This is Eddie, the shipboard computer. Emergency situation. Nuclear missiles have just been launched at us from the approaching planet, which my databanks indicate is the legendary lost planet of Magarethia. I cannot perform evasive maneuvers because all circuits are currently engaged by the Nutrimat. The missiles will turn the ship into a huge atomic fireball in approximately 8 turns. By the way, somebody didn't finish their spinach at dinner. You flip a switch, sparks fly from a large receptacle. My new control console, wails Eddie, the shipboard computer. This is the thanks I get? The universe goes crazy for a moment. Announcement. This is Eddie, the shipboard computer. The missiles have turned into a sperm whale at an improbability factor of 2 to the 39,746th power to 1 against. The whale is currently plummeting towards the legendary lost planet of Magrathea. I hope this will teach you to listen to me when I say that the legendary lost planets can be dangerous. I am proceeding with the preset landing instructions. Ford, Zaphod, and Trillian saunter by on their way back to the sauna. Good work, kid, says Zaphod, slamming you on the back. Down. Port. Get tea. Note here that getting the tea causes us to drop the no tea. We can't have tea and no tea at the same time, can we? Remove bit. Put bit in T. Turn on drive. A mist spins around your head. You fall into what seems like a bottomless pit. Suddenly you hit the bottom so hard you wish that it had been bottomless. We now have more control over what vignette comes next. Each turn, a different sense is not missing, and we can visit based on which one we want to interact with. They're all relatively self-controlled, and we do have to do them all, so order doesn't really matter, but it's nice to actually have some control over our lives. I'm going to say that. All right. Anyway, so let's pick one. We can hear nothing, smell nothing, taste nothing, see nothing. So we're on a feel. So feel. Cold, wet, and squishy. That's Trillian at the party. We don't want to do that one again, so we're just going to keep doing nothing. See, feel, taste, smell, hear. The star drive coming from above. That's back on the heart of gold. Hear, taste, see, feel. Let's smell. That's the beast again, so we can skip it. Feel, hear, taste, smell, see. Painfully bright light at the back of her eyes. All right, let's do this one. Examine light. The light resolves itself into the bright orange sun of Demorgram. The pain at the back of your eyes is from partying until very late last night, and both your heads are suffering from the worst hangover you've ever experienced. So I guess we're Zaphod now. You remember formulating a plan to steal the heart of gold, but you can't for the life of you remember any details. Presidential speedboat in the pilot seat. You are piloting the speedboat, which features very simple controls, toward the island of France, where the dedication ceremonies for the heart of gold will occur. You are currently steering the boat towards a narrow channel between towering cliffs and a rocky spire. There is a toolbox here. Footnote 3. A meaningless coincidence. Look under seat. You discover and pick up a small key and a piece of fluff under the seat cushion. All right, so there we have another piece of fluff. That makes 3 so far. Unlock box. The toolbox opens, revealing a magnifying glass and a laser-assisted monkey wrench. Get glass and wrench. Push autopilot. The button glows, an electronic eye stalk shoots up from the hood, looks around and withdraws, the light fades. You continue to steer towards the narrow channel. The autopilot will only engage if we are in danger. So let's steer towards the spire. It's now heading straight towards the rocky spire. Suddenly, the autopilot leaps to life, steering the boat away from the rocky spire. The crowd gathered for the dedication oohs and ahs as the boat swerves through the narrow channel. As it reaches the base of the towering cliffs, a plume of water forms under it, sending it higher and higher. The crowd bursts into applause as the boat reaches the top of the cliff, just south of the ceremonial dais. Stand up. Get out of boat. As you step out of the boat, the plume of water lowers it away. The crowd, unaware of the autopilot, bursts into a round of admiring applause. This is the platform surrounded by a crowd. Several members of the crowd are holding a huge banner. Just to the east is the heart of gold. Wave to crowd. The crowd cheers wildly. It thinks you're terrific. Read banner. President Beeblebrox is a swell guy. Footnote 15. It's not a very good banner, is it? No, not really. Crowd cheering. The crowd cheers wildly. It thinks you're terrific. Suddenly, Trillian leaps out of the crowd, grabs you by the necks, and points a blaster at your left head. Guards rush up, photon rifles poised to shoot. Stay back, shouts Trillian. One more step and the president of the galaxy is fried meat. The guards seem unsure and look to you for instructions. Guards drop rifles. You have to have the TOM in there so they know it's a command. The guards hesitate, then toss their photon rifles into a pile in front of you. Trillian shoot rifles. With a cloud of sparks, the pile of photon rifles disintegrates. The crowd cheers wildly. It thinks you're terrific. Enter Heart of Gold. You and Trillian enter the Heart of Gold, that beautiful bauble you've been coveting ever since your decision to run for president of the galaxy. The excitement overwhelms you, or perhaps it's just the awesome hangover from last night. Everything becomes dark. All right. The one exception to being able to instantly enter a vignette is once we've returned to the Heart of Gold, because then we do need to wait 4 turns until we can hear the Star Drive. We're going to go back down to the hatchway, where we can see all of the stuff that Zaphod had collected during his vignette. Get fluff. Get glass. Announcement. This is Eddie, the shipboard computer. We have just landed on the legendary lost planet of Magrathea. I don't want anyone going outside until I've checked the atmosphere, climactic conditions, existence of dangerous wildlife, airborne diseases, volcanic activity, presence of real estate agents, and more than 8,000 other possible dangers. This routine check will take 14.9 years, and don't even think about leaving until I finish because I'm jamming the hatch. So we cannot leave until we bypass this, basically. Get wrench. Put wrench in thing. There we go. Put glass in thing. I'm not sure we need the magnifying glass, but I'm doing it anyway. Up. Oh, I can just press S for 4, the F for 4. That's useful. Up and back to the bridge. What do we have? Put fluff in thing. All. Put shipper in thing. The thing has a very large capacity, but it isn't infinite. So we really have to figure out, because there is a puzzle at the end of the game that will need a tool selected randomly. Well, not entirely randomly, because if you skip any tools, that will be the one required. So you really do have to carry everything around with you, and managing that inventory is a bit tricky. I'm not sure whether the magnifying glass is one of these objects or not, but I guess we'll figure it out. Turn on drive. Like fog rolling in off the ocean, a shroud of blackness billows towards you. Unlike fog rolling in off the ocean, the blackness hits you like a 16-ton truck. Warm and wet and squishy. That's one we can do. All right. Feel. Drink. Liquid. Yeah, you are jerked to your senses by the realization that you are licking the lining of a whale's stomach. You're inside the stomach of a sperm whale. You can hear the distant sound of rushing wind. There's a flower pot here. Load is too heavy. Rot thing. Get flower pot. Put flower pot in thing. Get thing. What can we get rid of? Put towel in thing. Put board in thing. All right. Splat. Everything becomes dark. So the whale that we were in hit the ground. And everything that was not in the thing would have been destroyed. Fortunately, we were able to put everything in the thing, and the thing itself is indestructible, so it will return to our inventory eventually. There we go. See, we have it. We just have to wait enough turns. But we are maxed out our inventory, which means we can probably get rid of some of this stuff. I'm going to save it just in case I'm wrong. But I think we can get rid of the towel now. And we can get rid of the circuit board. Anything else? I can't say for certain we don't need any of the rest, so we're going to keep it. And honestly, we can probably drop the guide. There we go. Don't need that one. Light at the front. We did the light at the back, the bright light at the back, and that was Zaphod. So let's go ahead and do the bright light at the front. Examine light. The light resolves itself into the bright yellow sun of Earth. You are hurrying up a country lane. The sky is light and clear, but you keep glancing at it with apprehension because you know that it will shortly be torn apart by Vogon ships, and that the hills and trees around you will just burn up and blow away, and you hope there's time for a quick drink beforehand. You want to hitch a ride above the Vogon fleet, but you're anxious because it's been so long since you were through a matter transference beam. So we are forward now. The road runs from Arthur's home to the north towards the village pub to the west. Before you is the house of your friend Arthur Dent, who is lying in front of a bulldozer. You have no idea why. You have no idea about most things about Arthur, even why you regard him as a friend, but you do, and must therefore return his towel before you leave. Nearby stands an impatient man. There seems to be a bit of an atmosphere. Open satchel. Opening the satchel reveals Santurganian mineral water, a towel, the Hitchhiker's Guide, an electronic sub-ether signaling device, and satchel fluff. Get fluff and towel. Offer towel to Arthur. Inexplicably, Arthur takes no notice of the towel, which, magnificently, you are trying to return to him. Instead, he says, "Ford, what about my home?" You start guiltily. Does he actually know that the Earth is about to be destroyed? You start to ask him, then stop. If he knows, what the zark is he doing lying there in the mud in front of... You look around. You notice the bulldozer properly for the first time. You notice Arthur's house. You notice the workmen. The penny drops. His house is about to be demolished. You feel like a complete... What's the word? Moron. No, actually, idiot was the word I was looking for. In a reckless moment, you go completely mad and decide you ought to take Arthur with you. You try to tell Arthur about the importance of getting a drink, but he's rambling on about a man named Prosser. Walk around bulldozer. You walk around the bulldozer. Prosser is standing here, looking cross and frustrated. Realizing that you are a friend of Arthur's, he starts to talk at you. He says that this sort of protest is all very well, but what Mr. Dent must realize is that he's had plenty of time to take a formal protest at the proper time and place, and that spending months going through the appropriate official channels, filling in the appropriate official forms, and going to the appropriate official public hearings is the right way of going about it, and lying around whimsically in the mud is not. He says that he personally hates mud and despises the sort of people who lie in it. Well, too bad. Prosser, lie in mud. Prosser blinks in astonishment. You mean go and lie in the mud in his place? You explain that Arthur will only move if someone else takes over for him. Prosser shakes his head in such a manner as to suggest that he is very weary of the world, and you tactfully forbear from mentioning that it won't be troubling him much longer. Reluctantly, he follows you back towards Arthur. You rapidly concludes the business. Prosser lies in the mud. Arthur, bewildered, nevertheless stands up and appears ready to follow you to the pub. Go south, west to the pub. Buy beer. You order 6 pints of bitter, 3 for you, 3 for Arthur. According to the Hitchhiker's Guide, this should cushion your system against the coming shock of the matter transference beam. As you drink the first pint, you mention to Arthur that you are from a different planet, but it makes little impression. This surprises you because you thought it was the sort of thing that would interest people. Buy peanuts. You buy some peanuts, which you'll need to replace protein loss from the matter transference beam, a tip you picked up from the Hitchhiker's Guide. Drink beer. It goes down well. At least they managed to get something right on this benighted planet. You decide that it's time to tell Arthur that the world is about to end. You tell him. Arthur is completely unperturbed. Curious. You wonder what sort of news it would take to disturb him. Drink beer. It goes down well. You hear a muffled crash. It's probably Arthur's little house getting knocked down, which you tell him. This does upset him, and he tears out the door. Through the window, you see him running up the lane. A small dog chases after him, yapping, and he throws it a cheese sandwich. The dog devours the sandwich with passion and ignores a passing microscopic space fleet. If we didn't give the sandwich to the dog at the start of the game, we would have a second chance to do so here as Ford. You run up the lane after Arthur. You pass a serene dog. Fate cannot harm him. He has dined today. Arthur Dent is here. Mr. Prosser from the local council is standing at the side of the bulldozer. He seems to be wearing a digital watch. Give fluff to Arthur. Arthur hiccups, takes the fluff, and sticks it in his pocket. Right on schedule, according to the news you picked up last night on your sub-ether sensomatic, a huge fleet of Vogon construction ships hurtles noisily through the sky. Time is very, very short. Storms break in the wake of the ships, and the wind whips at you and makes it difficult to stand. You grab hold of a tree. The vast yellow ships thunder across the sky, spreading waves of terror and panic in their wake. The voice of the Vogon captain slams across the country, insisting that the planning charts and demolition orders have been available at the local planning office in Alpha Centauri for 50 years, and it's too late to start making a fuss about it now. You remove the electronic sub-ether signaling device from your satchel. Lights pulsate across its surface. You fumble with the thumb as you hold on to the tree against the fierce wind. It falls to the ground at Arthur's feet. Arthur is struggling desperately towards you. The end of the planet is now only seconds away. Fierce gales whip across the land, and thunder bangs continuously through the air in the wake of the giant ships. You struggle to reach the thumb, but the wind is too fierce and you are driven back. Fortunately, at this point, Arthur picks up the thumb and somehow manages to press the right button. However often you do it, you're still stunned by the shock of dematerialization. The scene around is ripped away like a flimsy backcloth. Everything becomes dark. All right, there we go. We now have 3 pieces of fluff. All right, yet again, I forgot to do something important. I left my dressing gown in the Vogon ship, even though I remembered the towel this time, which left me in an unwinnable state. So I went ahead and I went back through everything, did it all again, and I've gotten back to the same point here after having completed most of the vignettes. So let's go ahead and continue. Now that we have everything that we need at this point in the game to not be an unwinnable state, and turn on the Heart of Gold drive one more time. All right. And we need to keep waiting until we hear something below us, and that's until we don't hear nothing. Here we go, the star drive below. The Heart of Gold we were hearing from above us, so this is it. You emerge from a small doorway. Spread before you, astonishingly enough, is the war chamber of a star battle cruiser. Through the domed canopy of the ship, you can see a vast battle fleet flying in formation behind you through the black, glittering emptiness of space. Ahead is a star system towards which you are hurtling at a terrifying speed. There is an ultraplastic vacuum owl here. Standing near you are 2 creatures who are gazing up at the star system with terrible hatred in their eyes. One is wearing black jeweled battle shorts, and the other is wreathed in a cloud of green, sweet-smelling steam. They are engaged in conversation. The fleet continues to hurtle sunwards. And this is, of course, the diplomats who declared war on each other due to our misspoken command earlier in the game. So first of all, let's go ahead and get that owl. I think that's the last tool, one of the last tools we need. The fleet continues to hurtle sunwards. And we just kind of wait. Your simple act of kindness at a moment of great personal anxiety, you fed the dog, remember, now brings rich rewards. The battle fleet plunges towards Earth and spots the dog, which appears to them as a gigantic monster, cheerfully tucking into a cheese sandwich. The Volhergs and the Gavunts are moved by this simple picture of happiness compared with the furious savagery of their own lives. They think back to a day when they used to relax over an odd cheese sandwich themselves, often at sunset after a hearty day working in the fields back in Verlhergen and Gaguvia, and decide to return and rebuild their homes in a new spirit of harmony and cooperation. Grateful, they offer to drop you off at the Heart of Gold on the way home. After a brief 900-parsec trip, you are escorted into the transport chamber of the warship. The transponder glows, and your surroundings change. Maze. This is part of a spongy gray maze of twisty little synapses, all alike. By 1984, random mazes like this were one of the most hated interactive fiction puzzles. Fortunately, this one is a fake-out, and we just kind of have to wander around for a few turns until we find the particle here. This is part of a spongy gray maze of twisted little synapses, all alike. Blocking the gap are two large synapses is a large black particle. There seems to be some faint markings on it. Examine particle. As you look closer, inscribed in tiny letters on the particle, Sense, common, for Dart, and Arthur, for replacement order part 31541. So we are inside of our own brain, and we are going to grab our common sense. As you remove the particle, electrical impulses begin leaping madly across a now unblocked synaptic gap. Unfortunately, you were right in the gap at the time. Everything becomes dark. We are now finished with the last vignette and closing in on the end game. We get the T, we drop our no T. However, because we have no common sense, we can now get the no T at the same time. So we have T and no T simultaneously. Plant all fluff in flower pot. If you remember the legend we read in the guide earlier, this creates a seed for this magical plant. There we go. You notice a tiny movement from the flower pot. You look closely and see a tiny sprout poking out of the soil. It just took a few turns to catch up with us. All right, and now we can go to the port. You enter the sauna. After several hours, you come on a changed man. You have with you a changed plant. So let's look at the plant. It's now large and leafy. Hanging from it is a large succulent fruit. Get the fruit. There we go. The screening door is closed. Examine screening door. All you can tell is that the screening door is closed. Let's open it. The door is almost speechless with admiration. Wow, simultaneous T and no T. My apologies, you are clearly a heavy-duty philosopher. It opens respectfully. If you don't have this, the T and the no T tells you you need to impress it in order to pass by. And our paradox of having both T and no T does the trick. We can now drink the tea. It is the finest tea you have ever tasted. It has almost made this entire misadventure seem worthwhile. You experience several moments of complete happiness and relaxation. The cup itself vaporizes, part of the Galactic Anti-Litter Program. Upon opening this room, you are battered by tidal waves of depression. However, the happiness derived from your high score and that thoroughly excellent cup of tea you have recently helped you to survive. We are in Marvin's pantry. It's a small closet with an exit starboard. Marvin, the paranoid android, is here, and there is a thermofusion chisel as well. Well, let's go ahead and get the chisel. Marvin, open the hatch. Humans are so depressingly demanding. Do this, pick up that, unjam the opening mechanism of the other. Meet me in the hatchway access space in 12 turns, I suppose, he mutters. You can count up to 12. So hard to know with morons, and don't forget to bring the proper tool. And this will allow us to bypass the ship's computer, the 15-year checks to make sure the planet is safe. We can drop everything here. Well, let's first of all go starboard and then down. We're in the hatchway. Let's eat the fruit. The fruit has a zesty taste, and you devour it greedily. Suddenly, your vision wavers, and you see yourself, as though from a distance, standing near Marvin, who asks you for the ultraplasmic vacuum owl. Then the image vanishes like a movie when the film breaks, and you find yourself still on the hatchway. It seems that the plant is a rare horticultural phenomenon long thought to be extinct, the tree of foreknowledge. And this is why we've been carrying all this junk the whole time. Marvin needs one of the tools in the game, and it's random. If we had left anything behind, like the toothbrush from the very start or whatever, it will always be something that is currently unavailable to us. So we cannot have skipped anything, which is why I had to keep restarting the game. So we're going to drop all. I'm sorry. Get the all. Drop the thing. All right, I think this is fine. And then we can go starboard. This tiny area with an exit to port is for working with the hatch mechanism, which is vastly more complicated than your rather ordinary intelligence can comprehend. The floor is an open mesh, like the floor of a catwalk, and we can only carry one thing in here, other than, the gown and the fish in our ear, which in our case is the vacuum owl. The one thing that Marvin needs. So let's wait for him to show up. Here he is. Marvin, looking bored, says, "Hand me the ultraplastic vacuum owl." Give all to Marvin. Marvin fiddles inside the mechanism with the ultraplasmic vacuum owl for about 0.3 of a second. You hear the hatchway slide open. "I don't expect you to be grateful," says Marvin, "or even interested, but that was probably more complicated than every single action you'll ever perform in your entire life put together." He limps away. "And me," you hear him mutter as he goes, "with this terrible pain and all the diodes down my left side." What happened? Well, DOSBox closed out unexpectedly, probably because we beat the game and the program ended, but I have a screenshot of the ending. You step out onto the landing ramp leading down towards the surface of the legendary lost planet of Magrathea. Announcement. This is Eddie, the shipboard computer. Someone is leaving the ship on a strange planet without wrapping up all nice and warm. It'll all end in tears, I just know it. The voice fades behind you. Ramp. The wind moans, dust drifts across the surface of the alien world. Zaphod, Ford, and Trillian appear and urge you forward. Slowly, nervously, you step downward, the cold, thin air rasping in your lungs. You set one single foot on the ancient dust, and almost instantly the most incredible adventure starts, with which you'll have to buy the next game to find out about. By the way, there was a casual relationship between your taking the toothbrush and the tree collapsing at the very beginning of the game. We apologize for this slight inaccuracy. Friends, there is no next game. And that's it. That's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, one of the most difficult games Infocom released, marketed towards new players who just so happened to like Douglas Adams. It did well enough, but it was so difficult to get Adams to actually do the work that Infocom decided not to go on with the 5 more games planned in the series. And most of the new players who tried it bounced hard off of its difficulty. I will say that it's one of the best written pieces of interactive fiction, simply in terms of the prose itself, but a lot of the passages were just lifted straight from Douglas Adams' work. For his part, Moretzky was able to conform to Adams' writing style so well that Adams himself couldn't tell where his writing ended and Steve's began. Structurally, it's much a deeper game than it is wide. There are only 31 locations in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but those locations are filled with implementation, objects to manipulate, and things are happening all around you. I like the vignette improbability device that lets you experience the game from other characters' perspective. That said, as deep as it is, the fact that Adams procrastinated until the very end and then everything was implemented in his rush shows through as well. Many NPCs and objects have default "you see nothing special" descriptions, and parts of the game seem a little sparse as a result. It's also clear this was written as the first in a 6-part series that never manifested, and the structure reflects this. It's all narratively a first act without a clear goal for most of the game. The first half gets us to the vignette sequence, but we don't really have much in the way of clear instruction or motive after that. Things happen, but we don't really accomplish anything. I'm not going to touch on the puzzle design too much, but it ties into the snarky, unreliable, and occasional hostile narrator. There's a meta element to the puzzle design that takes what Adams loved and hated about the medium and subverts it just enough to shine a light on it, and that crosses over from gameplay to narrative. A lot of what we see here will influence modern notions of interactive fiction. The deeper instead of wider approach to content, the notion of the parser as a character of its own, even vignettes that have the players jumping through time and space. A lot of games are going to try to capture the same sardonic wit, but as we all know, comedy is hard, and this is one of the few games that gets the tone right. As always, thanks for watching my narrative analysis of this text adventure classic, one of the more successful examples of bookware. And a big thanks to my Patreon and channel supporters Karen, Theo, and Drakflaz. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by becoming a channel member or supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/mcoorlim.